you're not going to get my wife, who you saw in the videos, actually going over this review. You're going to be stuck with me here. So she's a little camera shy. Now, I want to dive right in, essentially, into the Glock 26. And you can see a couple of the guns here, and we're going to go over those and why they're out. Now, if you're like me, you're probably researching at this point getting a Glock 26 for the number one reason that subcompacts like this exist, which is going to be concealed carry. Now, there are two elements that I always consider when I'm looking at a gun for self-defense. The first one is essentially overall reliability and how good the weapon's going to be at actually protecting me. You know, I'm not going to go buy a Jennings or some other crap that has a horrible track record of performance when my life is at stake. The other thing, though, that I take into consideration is what will happen to that weapon after I use it in a self-defense scenario. Now, a lot of people will go out and they want to buy the most expensive gun out there because it's the best. They want to go carry a Kimber as a concealed or an open carry weapon, and I don't agree with that. If you've got the money, do it. But you know what? At the end of the day, what's going to happen to that gun when you end up using it? Do you think they're going to hand it right back to you? No, it's going to end up in an evidence locker somewhere, and you may never see the gun again. Okay, so I want to go over these fundamentals, or these two principles of mine, if you will, because they help me, or helped me, I should say, determine what gun I wanted to carry concealed. Now, with those being established, there are other elements, and we'll go over kind of some talking points with the gun, essentially why I think it makes a good concealed weapon, and why you may think that it wouldn't. So, a backstory, if you will, is I carried a firearm in relation to work for many years. And then I eventually got a concealed weapons permit and I started carrying concealed. And at first, I carried concealed a Glock 19. Very sizable weapon. Now, the problem with this gun is it's substantially bigger than a Glock 26, or what's in here, a Raven 25. But it's what I had at the time. Now, truth be told, I did have the Raven 25, but I'll get into why I didn't carry that weapon. The Glock 19, I carried it after work. I'd get off work, throw it in my paddle holster, go off and do the errands. And as the years went on, or the year went on that I was carrying it, I'd get those phone calls from the wife. Hey, go stop and get diapers. Well, you know what? I'm going to do what the wife says, right? Happy wife, happy life. Swing into Walmart, go and get diapers. Guess what? You've ever gotten diapers at Walmart? They stack the sons of bitches 12 feet high, and what are you doing? You're reaching up to grab the diapers. So your big ass Glock 19, or if you're someone who has a Glock 17 or something that's bigger like a Kimber, that's full size, you might show the barrel. What happens when summer comes, guys? Bigger gun, harder to conceal. And being in a state at the time like California, which is extremely anti-gun, it's funny. You live in a state where one aisle over, some crackhead smacking the crap out of the kid, nobody bats an eye. But the guy buying diapers shows the barrel of his gun, and everybody loses their minds. It creates this euphoric sense for you where you're constantly paranoid. Well, what's going to happen if somebody sees my gun? What's going to happen if this happens? It ultimately made me decide, you know what, I need to just invest in a smaller gun. Now, at the time, I had a smaller gun, one that was handed down to me by my father, a little Raven 25. Now, this gun is very difficult to eject a magazine on. Okay, you have to use a little rubber there. It also does not have anything to catch the slide, folks. It's also a very low end caliber. Very cheap gun though. For me, it was free. But going back to those two fundamentals, what are my concerns? For this, my biggest concern, what's going to happen to a gun that my father gave me when I use it to defend my life? I will never see this gun again. So keeping with the frame of mind that I want to stick with my two original fundamentals, which is I don't want to give out and potentially lose, a gun that my dad gave me. Okay. It left me to a situation where I'm not going to use my bigger gun, and I'm not going to use the smaller gun that was given to me. So I set out and I started doing a lot of research like everybody would when it comes time to get a bigger gun, or I'm sorry, get another gun. And I looked at a lot of different options, and I basically came down to the fact that I wanted to stick in the realm of having the same caliber as what I had, because one of the other reasons I did not like the 25 so much is it's more of an exotic caliber. It's hard to find. It can be expensive depending on where and when you get it, time of the year, etc. If it's even in stock. I also, even though I have a couple of other guns, I like to keep things easy for myself. I don't want to own 20 different calibers of weapon. So I was able to at least narrow it down at that point to I wanted a smaller gun than the Glock 19, and I wanted a caliber that was 9mm. I have right now at this point in time about 10,000 rounds downstairs in my garage. Now, I didn't immediately look at Glock. At first, I looked at XD actually, because they were a little bit cheaper from the retail end. I liked what they had, wasn't a big fan of loaded chamber indicators, looked at some things that Beretta had, Smith & Wesson had. I looked at a lot of different places, even started looking outside the realm of 9mm. A lot of friends had wheel guns, I liked those, but ultimately, I came back to Glock when I found a Stockton police officer, a rookie, who was trying to sell his gun to basically pay down some debt. And I jumped on it. This gun cost me $400. So it was one of those things that I kind of fell into. And I did a little bit of research before I met up with him and actually did the transaction and 10-day wait and all that crap. But what I liked was this. And I'm going to make it real simple because I'm a guy who likes simple things. There you go, folks. I just took a 15-round mag out of my Glock 19 and I put it in my Glock 26. The magazines are interchangeable, which was a huge thing for me because he threw in 2 mags. But ultimately, I like the idea that I can take one mag from one gun and use it on another. Now, I can't take 26 mags and put them in the 19, but you can take mags out of a 17 or a 19. You can put them into a 26, which to me makes a lot of sense because I already want to stick in the same caliber. Now I don't even have to buy extra mags if I want to shoot the gun on a regular basis. If I want to take the gun on a long trip, throw a couple of 15-round mags from my Glock 19 in a backpack or my suitcase or whatever I'm taking with me to drive down to visit family or go here or go there. It was practical. Pretty much had me sold at that point. Now, it's not as small as like a lot of people would want. A lot of people like the idea of when they think concealed, they want the smallest gun that they can possibly get. And if that's you, I'm going to tell you right now, this is probably not the gun for you. Okay? Small is something that there's a lot of options out there. But where I see this as kind of a happy medium gun that I think a lot of you guys are probably looking for if you've made it this far is you get the bigger service style caliber of a 9mm, and you can get a 40, and the same holds true with the mags with the 40 version, which is a 27. You get the bigger caliber, okay? Something that people carry into combat, in a duty work. They carry it. Somebody's not going to go into a war zone or on the streets to patrol with a 25, maybe as their backup. But you get something that's a little bit more reliable, but you're going to get something that's a little bit bulkier. Now, as far as trying to conceal this puppy, I've had no problems. During the summer, if I wear shorts, wear them a little bit baggier, don't have a problem with it. You wear a shirt that goes down a little bit more, they have some nice concealed carry shirts. If you're into concealed carry at all, you've probably already looked into those options. This makes it a much more practical gun to conceal carry. Now, obviously, the smaller gun is going to be easier, but I have had no problem shoving this thing into a cargo pants pocket. And if anybody has ever noticed the bulge, I've never had anybody say anything. I have had people say things when I concealed carry this in its paddle holster because the bulge is noticeable. Never have I had an issue with this. So I look at it as a trade-off. It is a little bit more bulkier of a gun as compared to like a Beretta 32 or a 25 or some of the other smaller options out there like a Derringer. But if you're looking for something small, you're going to settle for something like a Derringer. If you're looking for something more practical that you could carry perhaps on the job, if you work in security or like executive protection, or you work in law enforcement, you want something smaller, or you're a real estate agent who doesn't like going into some of these vacant homes that are out there, showing the house and never knowing if you're going to come in contact with a squatter or something like that, you want something with a little bit more bang for your buck. This to me was worth the trade-off in size. Now, I could get into reliability and all those things, but we all know how reliability goes. At the end of the day, there are two camps when it comes to Glocks. There are the camp that are fanboys, and I intentionally wore this shirt so you sons of bitches can know that I like more than just Glocks. But then there's the other camp that absolutely hates Glocks. Now, there are hundreds of thousands, if not more, probably closer to millions of Glocks that are in service, from law enforcement agencies to correction agencies to security to civilians to military units all over the globe that carry Glocks. Not Glock 26s, but Glocks in general. Now, a lot of the problems that I've seen or read about or researched with Glocks, they seem not to be with the 9mm based Glocks. They seem to be with the stuff like the 45 gap Glocks, which very recently I got sent an article from a friend of mine who is very anti-Glock about a department. I forget where it was at. You can Google it, probably find it. But they have about 100 officers, and one of their recruits, it was the second time one of the Glock 45 gaps blew up on them. And essentially what happens is a trigger assembly blows out. Now, that article and that story was really fishy to me because they talk about their ammunition as if they think the ammunition's at fault, which leads me to believe that they know that they were probably using something that was a little taboo, maybe reloads, who knows. They're also refusing to send the gun to the Glock armorers. And a small department probably doesn't have an armorer. Big departments, maybe 50-50 chance that they have a good armorer that actually knows about the weapon that they're issued and isn't just a generic person that takes care of shit and cleans them. So I look at a story like that and I'm kind of, and it takes me back to an incident about 6-7 years ago where I was working with a guy and he had carried a Glock, I forget what type, but about a year into him carrying that particular gun, we got into a conversation. I forget how, because I never really liked the guy to begin with, but he said something to me that struck a chord, which is he said, I love Glocks, and I've been carrying mine for about a year. I've put several thousand rounds to it, and I haven't cleaned it once. Now, everybody who's watching this probably sat back and was like, what? That's going to be the idiot who goes out with a dirty gun, puts reloads in it, blows the fuck up in his face, probably gets hurt, sues Glock, writes a blog about it, becomes the next story we all read about. I'm surprised it hasn't happened since then, probably because he got his ass chewed later for not maintaining his weapon. But that is the guy, in my opinion, who tends to be the one that jumps on board and goes, oh, this gun was shit, later on down the line when it's his fault that the gun wasn't maintained. Now, I clean my gun every time I go to requal. I clean it after I take it for shoots. My guns usually don't go more than a few weeks to maybe a month before I clean them after a shoot. I also don't put crap ammo through my guns. I don't go down to the gun show and find the dirtiest looking guy at a booth who's got reloads for the dirtiest, cheapest price and buy them. I don't. I'm a little bit more cautious. I buy reloads from people I know who did them right. I buy factory ammunition when it's on discount. Black Friday, Memorial Day, Father's Day, Labor Day, Veterans Day. Those are the days that all the gun places have big sales, guys. If you didn't know, now you know. Okay? Those are the times of years. That's why I'm sitting on 10,000 rounds, because I'll save up all my money. When Father's Day comes around, I'll run out my wall. Great place to get reloads. Father's Day comes around, they always do a Father's Day sale. I'll buy as much as I can from them. Okay? Put quality through my gun. This 19 has over 10,000 rounds in it. I've done one repair to it, which has been a new guide rod. Didn't even need to be done. I just decided I wanted to put a stainless steel guide rod in it. This gun, I don't know how many the original owners put through. I've put through about 1,000. Not one failed to fire, not one failed to eject. Same with the Glock 19. Now, does that mean that all Glocks are great? No, it just means that they have a good reputation and you are going to probably get a good gun. Are they bulky? When we're talking in the realm of concealed, yes. Do they have a lot of customization options? No, not really. Okay, you can buy stuff like the little fins to help your grip on the gun that attach to the bottom of the mags. Otherwise, it's a little bit harder to grip if you've got big hands. You can buy some of the tape grip crap that you can put on the guns. I'm a plain Jane guy. I believe in keeping it simple. KISS or whatever they keep it simple, stupid. I believe in that. I don't usually upgrade my guns very much. I don't put a whole lot of customization on them because when you get used to that stuff, in my personal opinion, and opinions are like assholes, when it fails, what are you going to do? When that grip falls off, which I've seen stuff like that. But to each his own. There's not a lot of customizationable options. So if you're looking for custom this and custom that, there's stuff you can do, but it's not an AR-15. You're not going to start putting attachments and all this crap on it. I look at this gun as one reason and one reason alone why I buy it, and now why my wife carries it, to save my life. And when I pull the trigger, or she pulls the trigger, I want it to go bang. And when it goes bang and that bullet hits somebody, I want it to be a big bullet. within reason. Obviously, I'm not going to carry around a 50 caliber handgun. As long as those needs are met, I'm satisfied. We're not going to be engaging a target 100 yards out. We're not going to be having to draw at high noon. And this is a good gun at a decent price to do it. For those who wanted to get a better look at it, make sure it's safe here real quick. I'll go ahead and give you a better look. Okay? If you're on the fence about it, and you're not into Glocks that much, I'll tell you this much. When I first took it to the range the very first time, worried about accuracy, I actually shoot, and so does my wife, 100 times better with this weapon than any of our other handguns. And I don't know if it's because we compensate, because we know it's a smaller barrel, but the gun has no issues as far as accuracy goes. I've never had one issue. I shoot 100 times better with it. I think that a lot of people who might have accuracy with issues with it, put a couple hundred rounds through it. Give it a shot. Okay? You might have a lemon, you might not. End of the day, guys, this is all I got for you. Don't have a whole lot more to say about it. I think it's a great gun. I think it's worth the purchase. If you want a good CCW weapon, I know several people who carry them, men and women. And if I have to get another one, I will buy another one. Or I'll just take mine back from my wife. So if you have any questions, feel free to comment. Feel free to send me an email. Otherwise, please like and subscribe, and happy shooting.